The Macbeth colour checker is a chart that is used to give a standard rendition of known colours and a grayscale. The 18% grey in the middle of the grayscale is useful because it gives a known reflective value that can be used as a standard in post-production.
Another tool used by cinematographers is a light meter, used to measure the light.
An incident meter is a meter that reads light falling on the meter. The incident meter can be used with a disc or a dome. The invicone or dome is supposed to represent light falling on a Caucasian face. The reflected meter, or a particular kind of reflected meter, a spot meter, which has a very narrow incident of reading, is useful in finding out how the set is responding to the light that you've put on it. So often a scene will be broadly lit with a incident meter, and then after that the cinematographer will get out their spot meter and start taking individual readings of individual surfaces, of shadow areas, of dark areas. Middle grey, or 18% grey, is a very useful calibration tool in that reading an 18% grey card with a spot meter will give you the same result as reading the light falling on an 18% grey card with an incident meter.
Does this mean a cinematographer looks around at the world searching for objects that are 18% or middle grey?
I don't so much think about where middle grey falls in the scene as when I'm shooting, as think about, except occasionally when, for instance, I might be shooting a scene that's at a distance and there may be a grey road in the middle of it, and frequently an asphalt road will actually be an 18% grey. And so instead of having to walk over to that patch with my incident meter, I can take a reflected reading, a spot reading of that mid-grey. But I mostly think about it in terms of the camera aperture, and the camera aperture as being the point at which middle grey will be accurately represented. And then when looking at the scene, I think about whether the tones will be darker than that or brighter than that. So I'm thinking about the tonal range of the scene rather than where middle grey is in the scene. So as I'm spot metering the scene, I'm thinking about what's bright and what's dark in the scene in terms of the camera aperture.
Cinematography is about measuring and capturing the light, but it's also about controlling and directing the light, so it does what you want it to do.
The most fundamental way in which the cinematographer controls the amount of light entering a camera is by use of the aperture on the camera. The aperture is a hole in the lens through which the light of the scene passes to land on the film plane. The aperture in a lens is very similar in function to the iris in the human eye. When, as humans, we are in a brightly lit environment, the hole in our eye stops down, becomes smaller to let less light in. So exposure-wise, when we're photographing a bright scene, we'll reduce the size of the aperture so that less light comes through to the film plane. Conversely, when the scene is darker, we'll open up that hole and make it a larger hole so more light can pass through to the film plane.